Welcome back to the Revamp Podcast. Today we got Jesse Nguyen out of Wilmington, right? Only 20 minutes away from our office. Just found out, which is really awesome. So you're doing wholesale, you're doing some Novation stuff, fix and flip, rentals. Let's dive right into it, man. Like, what are you about today? What's going on in the world of real estate for you?
It's about finding more focus, clarity, and building trust. I think that's the foremost of my mind when it comes to building out my company this year. Because starting off, I started back in the end of 2019, and leading up, even through the pandemic, market was really great, making a lot of money. You could do anything and make money.
That's the truth.
So it kind of clouds your perception of business when it's like you can hit every single shiny object and make it profitable, and you feel like you should do everything in order to capitalize and make the most amount of profit by putting your eggs everywhere. But really, when you're newer into the business, the quickest way to scale is honestly by focusing on one thing.
That's the truth. So let's go back to 2019. How did everything start in the real estate world for you?
So prior to 2019, I was actually helping my aunt and uncle between like 2014 through 2017 clean houses because they were BRRRR investors.
Okay.
And this was like super early stages when I didn't even know anything about real estate investing. And then I had to basically listen to Bigger Pockets podcast for hundreds of hours while cleaning these houses. And I also cut grass. And there was even one point where I was cutting the grass. I used to be the guy that cut grass with sandals or flip-flops.
Oh, man, really?
And I was cutting one of these like abandoned houses that they has recently acquired, and I shot a soup can lid onto my ankle.
Ooh.
And went to urgent care and got a tetanus shot. And that was close to the end of my grass cutting career because I think I had cut something like 1,000 lawns up to that point. And then I cleaned houses for maybe like 300, 400 hours.
So how old were you when you were doing all this stuff?
Right now, I am turning 25 this Thursday, so I'm 24 right now. At that point, I was like 17, 18 years old. Yeah, graduating high school. I read 30 books the summer of going into freshman year of college. Yeah.
That's a lot, man.
I was going towards the route of being a realtor. So I had studied for my exam and everything. I got my license first in Jersey and took a reciprocal license course inside Delaware. Got that license by December of 2018 or something like that. Sucked at being a realtor. Only sold 5 houses in my total career. Got rid of the license in the end of 2020 or sometime early 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what was your vision with getting licensed in the first place? Like going into that, did you kind of have in the back of your mind that you wanted to be on the investment side, but it's like, this is here and it's like, will I have MLS access or what was the thought?
I was supposed to help my family out using the real estate license.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that wasn't what they had wanted for me, which was weird. They wanted me to more so go down the engineering route, work W-2 engineer, work in real estate maybe in my 30s after I built some experience in the corporate world. And I just thought I knew better.
Why do you think they wanted that for you?
Because that's what they did themselves. And they make really, really good W-2 income, and they do real estate on the side. But they just do so much with their lives. It's kind of insane, like move, go, 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 go. And honestly, I don't know if I wanted the same thing. I don't know if I wanted to invest, do business while working at W-2 as well.
Okay. What is your take on that now, having a little hindsight and experience and some miles under your belt and everything? Would you still make the same decisions?
Yes. My sophomore year and junior year of college, my sophomore year summer, I actually got a internship with Delmarva Power or Exelon, which is like the utility company. You guys got PHI over here. It's just an electrical utility company. I got a business analyst internship that summer, and it's always the honeymoon phase for the first 3 to 6 months of any job.
For sure.
And then got an extension to that internship, and then I eventually got a contracting role for, I think it was cost. My title was cost engineering analyst, and they were paying me $40 to $45 an hour, which was insane. So by the time I was first semester senior, which was my last semester in college, I was making the equivalent of a $75,000 salary. So I was taking 16 credits while working 40-hour a week, and I just burnt myself out really, really bad. And I was just like, I'd never want to go back to the W-2 world ever again. But honestly, I was more so disinterested in what I was doing, and it didn't feel like I was working with a purpose. It didn't feel like I was utilizing my hours very well at that job. It just felt like I was collecting free paychecks and doing something else. And I was just like, this is a waste of my life. Even if the money is really easy, I don't want to take the easy money. I'd rather go do something that I'm super passionate about for 60, 80 hours a week rather than work here for 20 hours, but then dread doing any of this work that makes me feel like a human robot.
That probably sounds so crazy to so many people. I understand what you're saying. It's one of them things that you can't even really logically quantify, right? Because most people would say, wow, I can work not that hard and make pretty good money, especially at a really young age and everything. Like, that sounds sweet. But you're not wired that way for some reason. And it seems like your family was pushing that on you. So do you think there's anything like from a young age that kind of made you somewhat like go against the grain, so to speak?
So I have really supportive parents, and we had moved away from New Jersey where the majority of my family, I'm talking like 80, 90% of my family live. And those were some of my biggest influences growing up because my parents spent so much time working. So I was actually more so raised by my extended family. But then there came a point in 2011 where we just moved over to Delaware, and my parents got a gas station, and they spent 2 years doing the business, failed at it. Unfortunately, like, operations is not just something you could pick up.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's very hard. So they just try to wing the business for 2 years and just sold it for a loss. And then we ended up staying in Delaware. And I think the biggest thing is that my parents, they didn't try to hold me back or try to sway me. So it didn't feel like I was in it by myself when I was going the route and the decision of doing my own thing or trying to figure it out. Because my parents were just like, you can always come back here. We'll always support you in terms of housing and in terms of food. So you have this fallback plan. And then they weren't additional friction and got in my way when it comes to me chasing after my dreams.
I love that.
And I think a lot of people, their parents are the ones that are the friction in their lives that prevent them from going and chasing after their dreams. But for me, it was extended family.
Interesting. But so that I see what you're saying. And yes, that's fantastic. But there could have also been something that was like ingrained in you. How old were you when they bought the gas station?
12, 13 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they had that for about 2 years or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got into cutting grass when I was in Delaware. So that was between the age of like 13 and 16 as well. So I had all my clients as well in Delaware. But it was probably like 10 houses every other week. So it was nothing significant, but I did have to knock doors and go get those clients.
Gotcha.
So to a certain extent, I was a door-to-door salesperson and operator.
You were out there hustling. So maybe like, was there kind of separation? Like, you didn't really see what was going on with their business and with it ultimately failing. So it didn't impact you, I guess.
No, it didn't impact me because they're different people than
Sure.
I am. And they weren't raised in America. And it's not that much of an advantage for me being raised in America, except I had a different mentality or skill set in terms of talking to people that they didn't have. Because they always questioned me, why would I talk to the neighbor? Or why would I ask this person for this thing? They always shied away from asking somebody for something or for additional information. One of the things is that my mom, she was, I think she was she had her GED, and then she took a community college course, and she could have went the route of going to be a nurse, but in her country, the nurse gets paid the same amount of money as somebody who just works in the factory. So she didn't see a value in it.
Okay.
So, but if she had asked somebody else exactly what the pay scales were, or what does life as a nurse look like versus somebody who just worked in the factory, if she just asked more questions, I think she would have made totally different decisions.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. What country?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So you were born in the States, though?
Yeah, I was born in the States.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
Yeah. My dad was different as well, in the sense that he was very sociable, but he had a lot of pride and ego in himself. Not saying that he's a bad guy by no means, but it's just like some small character flaws where sometimes he would have things just to show him off. And when you have pride and ego, you hold back the vulnerability that allows you to grow.
Dude.
So I think that stunned him from growing, even though everybody loves him. Like, he works in my company now, where like we're partners in a contracting business, and he helps us do some of these Novation flips. And he supports my dream wholeheartedly. But sometimes his internal pride and ego comes out, and I don't even know if he knows that he has it, and he doesn't know what his life could be if he just lets down his guard and really just be more vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that's something that's really hard for a lot of people, right? Because you have to first be self-aware enough to realize that your ego even exists, right? Like, most people don't even think that they have an ego. And I know some guys with giant egos that don't think that they have an ego. The reality is we all do.
Yeah.
You know, I was just having a conversation with our dispositions manager the other day about exactly this. And, you know, we're doing this new campaign, so to speak, where we're doing a bunch of agent outreach. We've never done this before. And so many of the responses that we're getting from agents is like, they have no idea what wholesale is, right? They don't even understand what we do as a company or what our value proposition is. And that's fine. We can explain that to you. But so often, like, that, they just shut us down. Like, they don't even want to have the conversation, which, by the way, from a salesperson's perspective, that is the freaking worst thing that you can do. Like, if you are a salesperson and I'm coming to you as a warm prospect, like, you should do whatever you can to welcome me with open arms, right? Which is a whole different conversation entirely, right? But through a couple of these interactions, you know, just some of the responses that we got from different agents and wherever, Pennsylvania, Delaware, or Jersey, some of the responses, it's like I had to check myself. I'm like, oh, well, what I wanted to tell Josh to reply with is definitely my ego even showing through, and kind of got to pump the brakes and be self-aware and be like, yeah, I would sound like a dick too if I said it in that way, you know? And it's like, that's not the way that I am. That's not the way that I run a company. That's not the way that I lead. That's not the way that I manage, but it's there, right? Like, I've been around for a long time and I've done a lot of things. And in the back of my mind, it's like when somebody comes along and they just kind of crap on you and they don't even want to have a conversation. It's like, what I am thinking in the back of my mind is like, you don't even understand. Like, I've done hundreds or thousands of these type of deals, and, you know, you're over there trying to shut me down. Like, I have a way that I can get this deal done, but that's ego, right? So
Yeah.
Sorry to derail. But anyway, so back to you, back to your father, and you said he supports your dream and your vision. What is that today?
So I want to start out with the premise that I think my parents trust me blindly, and they trust me wholeheartedly because, honestly, I don't even know why they trust me, but the way that they move and the way that they talk to me and the way that we communicate, they just believe that I'm up to something that is past their understanding, and that allows them to just, you know, full send into whatever I'm doing, which, you know, the more trust, less friction. But one of my biggest dreams, honestly, is to help as many people achieve their dreams and goals. And honestly, my mission in my company is to serve God and serve others using our gifts and talents through real estate investments. We pulled that from the Bible, 1 Peter 4:10, and that was something my partner had inspired me, we were just trying to figure out what our mission and values were. And this was when we had a dysfunctional company, but he pulled it out, and I was like, that really sticks with me, honestly. And not to go super religious or spiritual on people as much, just like even like the people who go to AA, for them to get out of their addiction or their struggle, they had to find something greater than themselves.
For sure. It's got to be something bigger.
Yeah. And it's not so much like I care about making money as much as I care about making an impact. And honestly, I don't hold my life on earth super closely. I don't have super nice things. I don't really care for super nice things. I don't care for status. And I was watching a YouTube video and it was talking about asking yourself some questions out of self-reflection. One of them was, hey, if you had $100 million just got wired into your bank account, what would you be doing tomorrow? And I was talking to my partner, Kenny, about this. And I was like, damn, would I go buy a boat? Would I go buy several houses and then, do this, do that? And I was like, that sounds really, really cool. But honestly, that sounds like everything that I was warned against, that leads to vanity, that leads to emptiness, that leads to you not actually accomplishing what you really want in your life. And then I came to the answer that if I had $100 million in my bank account, I would figure out how can I use this money to further accomplish the mission that I am on currently today, whether that means I need to spend more money on coaching, elevating myself, getting A players in order to reach the goal or dream, or whether that's buying companies to do M&A and then aligning an overarching mission across the organizations and the people, trying to do bigger things in that regards. So I always made it about the people at the end of the day, because the people help you accomplish big things they are the ones that are going on the mission with you and for you. And I'm very much like a who, not how type of person to a certain extent. Like,
I understand.
You got to know your P&Ls.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So let's take that back a step, right? So you are massively driven by purpose and meaning.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I am the same way. Mm-hmm. And I have a really tough time articulating this as well, like why I am this way. I have some ideas. I have some reasons that I believe that I think the way that I think and I am the way that I am. We don't ultimately always understand everything even about ourselves, though. But to your point about self-reflecting and everything, it's a very valuable thing to do. But where do you think that comes from? Because I don't think that's a normal thing, right?
So we took a spiritual assessment, like a spiritual gifts assessment at our church recently. And one of my biggest spiritual gifts is faith. And second comes like hospitality and giving or something like that afterwards. So naturally, I am very geared towards giving to others, making people feel at home. Like, I love to cook. I love for people to try my food, and I'd rather eat at home than go out somewhere else. And I love to create experiences rather, go somewhere else where I'm not the one cultivating. I like to originate experiences.
Okay.
And I think the biggest thing is that faith, where it's just like not everybody has the gift of faith, or not everybody can believe in something without seeing. So I can see like exactly, maybe not exactly my vision like 20, 30 years from now, but I have a very, very good idea of it. And I also have a very, very good concept of who God is in my life. And I have a lot of faith in people and humanity. I think one of the big things is that I can trust people really quickly, and people can trust me as well. And it's just like I'm very authentic, and I can also find people of like kind, like breed.
I love that. What's been the biggest challenge that like challenged your beliefs, your views about people, about the world? Because I can share plenty of stories, because I am the same way, right? Like, I've had so many people like close to me in my life tell me many, many times, again and again and again, that I am too trusting, and that almost as if like I see the world through rose-colored glasses, and I don't, right? I'm a realist. Like I understand things for the way they are. But I can tell you, man, over the last decade, like there's been a lot of things that have happened to me in relationships and everything that I'm like, man, I've really had to challenge like my own thoughts, my own beliefs and everything. And at the end of the day, I always came back to, well, this is what I want to believe anyway, even though I have been challenged and the world has shown me that the way that I believe things isn't necessarily true, but I want to believe that it's true. And I think that's the most fruitful thing for me. So I tend to believe it anyway. Like I tend to believe that all people are good with the ability to do evil, right? I don't think that there's obviously exceptions to the rule, right? There are evil people in the world, right? No question. But I think that by and large, all people are good with the ability to do evil. What do you think about that?
I think one of my biggest challenges has honestly been myself, because I wouldn't say I became like a believer in Jesus until I was like 18. That same time when I was reading 30 books, it was that summer I was also reading the Bible, and I finished the New Testament going into college. And the life that I had lived previously and the friends that I used to hang around and the things I used to enjoy, or even feeling like I was lost in terms of who I was and my identity versus the person that I became, the person that I continued to grow into, and the people that I surrounded myself in college that were very growth-oriented people. Maybe they weren't necessarily business people, and maybe they weren't on the same journey as me in that regards, but they all pushed me to be a better version of myself, and we had an alignment in that sense. So one of my biggest challenges, I think, is, how do I say this? I think one of my biggest challenges is taking that leap of faith and just foregoing everything that I used to know and the way that I used to operate. Because when I was hanging out with the wrong people, or I was doing the things that did not really align with who I was on the inside, I kind of had a conflict in terms of my own personal core values that I was still trying to uncover and unveil. And when you feel like something doesn't feel right, I never really thought about like what that mean. Yeah. And I think as I was doing more business, developing my relationship with God, and hanging around these people, I was just like, this is actually where I jive and where I flow. Trying to figure out where is my flow state and who is like, what is my identity.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's go back to starting your business and everything. Like, what was the first deal that you did in real estate?
First deal in real estate was through Driving for Dollars. I was in Newark, Delaware. It was with a guy that I went to church with, and his dad had flipped 90 houses across 4 years, owned an HVAC company as well. So he was willing to mentor us and help us raise financing for the deal. And we just had to go find the deal. So one of the things was, hey, I knew direct to seller marketing worked. I didn't know what channels. I didn't know how to go about it. And I was like, the cheapest way to go about it is probably drive around and look for these ugly things.
Absolutely.
Used the Deal Machine app, drove around like an hour and a half once a week for 6 weeks straight. So it wasn't even a lot of effort. And it was honestly...
That's consistency, though, for what it's worth. Yep.
Yeah. We had started in June and then got a call in September, got the contract, and it wasn't closing until first week of December. And my friend's dad had already exhausted his funds or his relationships, and it was up to me to go raise the money. It was a $60,000 purchase in like a $250,000 neighborhood. It was crazy.
Okay, good deal.
I overestimated the rehab, and I thought it was
overestimated.
I thought it was $100,000 because they were washing dishes inside of their bathtub. Their plumbing had been shot for years. Like, the kitchen sink didn't work. It was crazy. And I mean, it was a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, probably close to 2,400 square feet. That house is probably going for 350 to 380 nowadays. We sold it for 260. Yeah, we sold it for 260.
Okay. What did you end up spending in rehab?
I think we spent like 60 to 70. So
Damn, bro.
we made 110 grand, split it 2 ways, 50 to 55 grand.
Not a bad first deal, my friend.
But it ruined me because I was jaded to what good deals actually are. Because most flippers, they'll take 50K spreads, 40K spreads all day. And I should have done it because more of those direct mail calls did flow in and the opportunity to buy houses were there. And I just didn't know what I didn't know. So
you were just like, you had a mental block because you're thinking every deal that I'm going to flip has to be like a 6-figure deal.
Yeah, had to go for it. That was a good deal.
Yeah.
But actually, that was a home run of a deal. And honestly, we were going to lose it if we didn't find the financing. And luckily, there's a crazy story where I was working at Delmarva Power on the job, and I was supposed to have somebody that I know fund the deal, and they pulled out last minute. And I started calling everybody I knew who could possibly have the money, and it was until like the 21st and 22nd person, which was like my dad's second and third cousins.
Really?
That had funded my dad back in the early 2000s when he had bought like a foreclosure house in South Jersey or something like that.
Okay.
And yeah, they committed to helping me out with that. So we didn't lose the deal. Honestly, if I had known what wholesaling was, probably could have just put the deal for 50K spread, 60K
right.
spread. Didn't even know.
You didn't even know that was an option at that point.
No. So looking back, it's kind of crazy. But we completed the deal, sold it May of 2020, took some money, and I invested into direct seller marketing through cold calling. I did not know my numbers, did not even think about a CRM or anything. I was just running
just balls to the wall. We got numbers, we got phones, let's call.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. No training for the VAs at all. I was just like, I treated VAs like robots.
Did you?
Yeah, that's messed up. Nowadays, I'm like, these are just regular people that you can, put to SOPs and they will comprehend what you're telling them. They're no less than you and I, but I treated them, less, and that's my mistake and that's my ego, and that was part of like my leadership growth.
Got it. So you get this deal done. You start doing some direct to seller marketing. You're doing some cold calling. Like, did you already have the idea in your mind that you want to scale this thing at that point? Or were you just kind of like, let's do another deal, like another 6 figures would be sweet?
That was my intention with my previous partner whom we did that 6-figure deal with. But he had a different idea of where he was going to go. And his dad was going out, like exiting the business, and was going to give him the funnel of relationships from the wholesalers and realtors and people who could feed him the deals. So it looked different for him in terms of his trajectory versus mine. And
got it.
I wanted to go build out a wholesale company.
Okay.
Yeah. But that wasn't actually like my true first attempt at building a wholesale company. That was more so just me funneling deals for myself. I was just trying to build financial freedom. They always sell to you through the podcast where it's just like, you want financial freedom, you want rentals, you want passive income. When really, it's like once you get to that point, then what else is there to do? There's no purpose in financial freedom.
Well, that's the thing. It's such a easy dream to sell because, like, you can go into any room of real estate investors or aspiring real estate investors, and you can ask almost any of them, why did you start in real estate investing? And 99% of the people are all going to have the same answer. I want to have financial freedom, or I want to have time freedom. It's some form of freedom, right? Like that's how everybody starts. And many people change over time after being in the business for a while, and it becomes an entirely different thing. But it's a very common starting theme for almost everybody, which makes it easy to just be like, yeah, you definitely want financial freedom. You definitely want time freedom. And here's how you do it, right? With rentals, with this, with, flipping a couple houses a year or whatever. How has your mindset shifted about that whole, like, phrase, if you will,
Sure. Yeah.
since starting?
So I believe that's similar to defining success. And one of the things about success that I read, I think through The Gap and the Gain, through by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, success is personally defined by each person. And you'll find success, honestly, by measuring backwards versus measuring forward, and having gratitude for the things in which you've done to get you to where you are, rather than seeing the deficiency of where you are to where you want to be. And then when I look at freedom, I think freedom is personally defined the same way that success is personally defined. I feel like I have freedom. I have liberation in who I am through my relationship with God, through my relationship with my employees, through our mission, even if I don't have, by worldly standards, time freedom, because maybe I'll spend 50, 60 hours a week working on my business. I love every single minute that I'm doing it. And I love everybody that I'm working with. And it's just like, I'd rather have this than whatever you guys defined as freedom. And that's why I think it's really important that everybody really sit down and define what success and freedom looks like to them. Because I think Jocko Willink also speaks about how, this is Larry Yatch. He was speaking about how success is a daily optimized experience sustained over time.
I love that, man. I love that. And that's such a powerful thing, right? Like, so many people end up just chasing that thing for their entire life. Maybe it's whatever they think freedom is, or financial freedom, or the next promotion, or the next business deal, or whatever, rather than kind of enjoying the process, right? Because I truly believe that, especially for high achievers, right? Perfectionists, guys that want to make an impact, guys that want to change the world. It's like, we never arrive. We're never there. It doesn't matter. You can have the most gigantic goal and then actually achieve it 10 years from now. But once you get there, you're like, well, that was just the only mountain that I could see. But now that I'm here, there's 3 other things after this. I'm not there. I'm not done. I have not arrived. There is no arrive, which means if you're not cognizant of it and aware that you should enjoy the process, and the fact that you said you feel free right now, that's such a freaking incredible thing, right? Because if not, it's the perfect way to end up burning out even the most gritty person that feels like they can sustain anything, because at some point you're going to get kicked in the teeth a lot. At some point, everything's going to go wrong. At some point, you're probably not going to want to continue on the same path unless you're enjoying the process, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much that I do in running my business, in the day-to-day, and scaling and improving myself as a business leader, as a father, right? So much stuff that I do, I don't necessarily enjoy, but I enjoy the fact that it's part of the process, and the process is what I'm chasing. I'm not chasing the finish line, right? So to your point, like, I also feel like I have freedom, you know what I mean? So that's a beautiful thing, brother.
Yeah. I think one of the most beautiful thing that I've heard and greatly appreciated by one of the guys on my team, Josh, he was speaking to me yesterday. He was just like, bro, you cycling through 4 books right now? I'm reading a book on marriage. I'm reading 2 leadership books. So it's like Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. I'm reading The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. He runs a Diary of CEO podcast out of the UK. And one other book I'm reading, and I'm just like blanking out, but I'm always reading the Bible as well.
I mean, it's a lot of books, so I can give you a pass, dude.
No one's reading books after college. No one's reading books unless they're really chasing after something. And the fact that this is just part of my daily experience, my optimized daily experience of me living a successful life, is continuously growing and exceeding who I was yesterday. This is how I get 1% better every single day, is by sharpening my mind and putting those things into practice.
I love it.
Because people can read 300 books a day, or 300 books a year, or 50 books a year. But if the book or Alex Ramosi says, like, if the book was that good, why wouldn't you read it another 2, 3, 4, 5 times?
Yep.
I'm just like, actually, that was a whole nother perspective shift. So I'm like, I'm cycling through these books. I'm going to go back and reread them. I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm studying these really, really fantastic, good books that can help shape me into the person I want to be. Whether that's like being a great business leader or being a better visionary or even being a better husband. I mean, I want to be a father in the near future. So prepping myself to be that, or just being a good friend, like all these things are learnable traits.
Yep.
And you're going to continuously develop on that journey. You're not going to just get it right away.
It's the truth, man. That's the truth. I love that.
Yeah. So I look at it as like Josh was telling me, like, who else does that? And I was like, I don't know many people who actually do that, except some of my Christian friends. They actually cycle through books like crazy. I was like, dang, that's why I hang around these guys. But as I continue to build up my company is super small right now. It's just 4 of us in person. As we add people on, he was just like, we have a really lax culture. It's really chill. And like, we're not running like a full on sales floor operation going super hard at this very moment. But it's just like, I don't know how this culture is really scalable going forward in the future. That, you know, if they see your boss is just out hanging out with people or doing this or doing that, I'm just like, but that's kind of just what owners and visionaries, they're also salespeople in a different way.
Right.
It's just the way you look at it. And honestly, if you see your boss constantly learning and growing, wouldn't you want to be the same in a similar, or they have to be learners themselves and growers themselves. That's why they would be part of the culture. And I told Josh, people would only want to be part of our company and be part of this vision if they want to be with me, if they want to win.
That's right.
And it's just like, maybe we need to adopt a mindset, a culture, a mentality of, we're going on this journey playing the long game. Like, we're trying to be the Warren Buffett, Charlie Mungers. Like, that's what we're after. Like, who cares if there's somebody else down the street doing 30% compounded return, but they can only do it for like 5 years.
Right.
But if we could do
longevity.
Yeah, if we could do it way longer and be the last one standing, that's what I'm going for.
So you saying that today, what does that look like to you if you're to project into the future? Does that look like wholesaling 500 houses a year, doing a couple hundred novations a year, a couple hundred flips a year, buy a couple hundred rentals a year?
Yeah.
What's that look like?
I don't know in terms of deals. Honestly, I'm getting away from looking at quantity of deals and looking at more so on the net profit number.
Okay.
And I think what I know in the future, in the next 3 years, is that we're trying to cumulatively generate $1 million of net profit to partners in the business. And we're also trying to give away $1 million of our profits towards charitable causes and organizations that we care about. Because I always was wondering, what would I do if I made all this money through my business? Like, I only live on like $50,000, $60,000 a year. And
God bless, brother. Wait till you have kids.
I know. Then it's going to scale a little bit more. But honestly, like, I just have such a beer taste, you know?
Yeah.
I don't have a desire for fancy things in life or have a big house, because just like, if you had a really large house and your family is just all across the place and you never saw them because they're kept in their corner, I think it's just a really sad image. So I'd rather just, we're all cramped together.
I dig that.
And like, our office is like our second house, 3,400 square feet. And I'm just like, dude, these bills
beautiful, brother. Yeah.
But these bills are just too big, you know? It's like, I don't want big bills. Even if I was so rich, I'm just like, this is just too much. This is kind of waste. And a lot of people end up going backwards to downsizing to smaller houses in their like late 40s anyways. I've seen it. And it's just like, that's the American dream. I want something totally different.
Yep.
You know? And I also want to inspire my future children to also build that early work ethic so that they can be handling businesses in their 20s if they so desire and choose, that they will have capability of being self-starters. Because I know people who some of my peers from like the Maui Mastermind, whom are in their 40s, that they're doing their estate planning and they wouldn't let their kids touch the money until they're 35. If anything happens, like they have these advisors, they have these people that they would need to consult with if they need to get any type of money at all. But my friends were just like, I couldn't even trust myself at 35. Like, what would I, like, how can I trust my kids at 35? It's like, you got to build them different. That's how.
Yeah. That's the thing.
And nowadays, the kids, that Gen Alpha, or the super young Gen Zers, they're just built softer.
Dude, totally.
Yeah.
I think it's a massive problem, honestly. But at the end of the day, that does ultimately fall back on parents as a responsibility, right? Like if you today just let society and the educational system raise your kids, dude, frankly, I think that's gonna yield some fucked up kids, like in a lot of ways.
Soft parents, soft teachers, soft mentors make soft kids. So how hard can I be? Like, how do we hold our kids to a higher level of excellence and surround them by people whom they can also aspire to be like? That's why I want to take them out. Like, so my idea in the future when I have kids is I want private education or private cohort with people who are like-minded, and they're only going to get 4 hours of education per day.
Okay.
And, I mean, in terms of structured, whether it's online or in person or it's hybrid, I want to go about that way, and they got to fit everything in within that time frame. Because I remember when I was in school, we were wasting so much time doing nothing. And it's like, I don't want that for my kids. I'm going to value my kids' time. And then second half of the day, we're going to work on practical. Maybe you'll figure out how to fix toilets by the time you're 10 years old. Maybe you'll figure it out before I do. Honestly, I'm going to go back to figuring out how to fix my own stuff, like the wealthier I get, or as I become more and more wealthy and more successful. This guy, you know Brian Murray?
No.
He's Brandon Turner's partner.
Okay.
He wrote Crushing It in Commercial Apartments or something like that. It's like 600-page textbook, like really good bestseller. That guy is back on a farm in North Carolina working on his hands, don't got internet.
Really?
I think he's worth like $500 million or something like that.
Look, there's no shame in it. I think there's a stigma to it, though, that when you do more, it's almost an ego thing as well, right? It's like, oh, well, I shouldn't have to do those things. I shouldn't have to maintain my rentals. I shouldn't have to swing a hammer, right? Like I should just be able to pay someone to do it. I've done hundreds of deals, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, for me personally, like that's how I started, right? I was a hands-on guy. I was flipping houses, doing everything by myself. And largely, I enjoy that stuff, right? Like I like working with my hands. I like seeing a product go from a piece of crap to something beautiful and knowing that I had a part in that, right? Like I think that's a really satisfying thing. Now, on the other hand, I also don't have the time to be able to be in the weeds with most things. But when like I have to do a little project here or there, like I feel that it honestly keeps me sane in a lot of ways, right? To have something to just build, to work on or something in some capacity, right? And I've translated that to other things that aren't just construction and flipping houses. It's also for me building businesses, building processes, right? Some of the other things I've built along the way, other parallels, software now, it's like I love building things.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because one of the things is that I don't believe that, I don't want to say like I'm not a builder to a certain extent, but growing up, I helped my dad be his helper in terms of getting him tools, being able to make his life easier, assisting him. And I see that parallel where as I continue to grow up, I just love being a helpful person, whether it's helping my wife, manage the house or help her out with any of her tasks or responsibilities or just taking care of the cars or just helping out people in my office and what they're doing. Like I always wanted to lend a hand and contribute and be a team player in that regards. Maybe I'm not necessarily the self-starter that's going to go out there and do it myself and lead the charge in that regards. But I'm always going to be like a team player that people won't say like Jesse did nothing,
I understand. But that's the thing is understanding and being self-aware and playing to your strengths, right? Like, and I think that was one of the big things for me. Like, I had a mentor early on that he was one of them guys also that he basically told me, he's like, look, man, you're doing over $1 million a year, like in your main company, and then you have other companies. You cannot touch a tool from here on out. Like, you just can't do it. You can't do anything that you're generating less than whatever it was, $1,850 an hour. If you can pay somebody less than $1,800 an hour, you don't do it. And for a while, that kind of fucked me up, honestly, because I was like, man, but I kind of enjoy some of it too, you know? And I'm good at it, right? No, it's not my best use of my time. I understand that as well. But there's definitely an aspect to understanding what got you to where you are and who you are at the core and playing to those strengths, right? Like, it wouldn't serve you to be the way that I am because this is my superpower. Yours is different, right? If yours is helping people and being aware of what their strengths and superpowers are and interjecting yourself into their life, into their job, into their responsibility, and making sure that they have what they need to do the best job that they can, that can also take a company and a business to the frickin' moon.
Yeah. One of the big things that I've learned recently honestly comes from Dave Ramsey. And even though he's just like no debt and real estate is like the antithesis of everything that he teaches, one of the big things that I really have taken away from his programming, honestly, is what brings you peace. Because if the thing that may be less than your hourly wage or less than your value per se is what brings you peace, then do it. You know, if it brings you joy and is part of your daily optimized experience and that helps you feel successful, that aligns with where you want to be, then do it. If you have the same type of alignment as somebody who's trying to be big CEO, different verticals, you know, multi-decamillion-dollar companies, and you can't touch a tool, then go that way. Every person is different, and you can't just give them a one-size-fits-all type of advice.
Yep.
And that's why I decided I'll touch tools. I'll go drive to Home Depot if I need to accelerate this project because I care about this project.
Yep.
Or if it's something like at my office, it's like, well, I'm not going to delegate that. That's my baby. You know, I want to make sure this is done the right way the first time, and then we don't need to go back to it, because how many times do you have to call a contractor to do something time and time over again?
Nah, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And then it does. And then it's just like you're burning a lot of time and you're just like, man, I thought delegating was supposed to be easy. But honestly, delegating takes time.
It's a skill, man.
It's definitely a skill. And it's like something you learn over time. I find a lot of peace doing more things myself. I just need to find a balance between what I'm delegating and what I'm doing. And honestly, like there's such thing as delegating too soon, too fast.
Oh, for sure, man.
And I learned that. And luckily, I learned it really early on in my career, and that I'll exercise better judgment going forward before I do delegate. But there are sometimes you have to go the who, not how, where you do find somebody who knows how to do what you don't know how to do, and it's worth the money that they cost in order to help accelerate the vision.
Of course.
Because you can't do everything yourself.
You can. And yeah, there's a time restriction on things as well. It's like, you know, if you had to go to a surgeon to have something done, like, yeah, you could go learn all those things yourself and go through med school and everything, like, but that doesn't make any sense. So you have to draw the line and know when it makes sense to find that who. My thing has always been, for anything that is gonna essentially be a recurring thing that has to be done for the business to operate the way that it needs to operate or the way that I want it to operate, I have always liked diving headfirst into all of those things, right? And this goes not just from construction on flipping houses, but into, you know, everything sales related and marketing related on the wholesale and acquisitions company and everything, to literally every single piece of everything. And a lot of that is just the way that I am and my brain works. But I feel that I am able to better delegate because I understand the whole scope of the position. And maybe by and large, I'm usually not an expert at anything, right? But I have a good enough understanding because I've at least spent a little bit of time in that task, in that responsibility. I understand the day-to-day of it. I understand little nuanced things. So I'm able to effectively put processes in place, find people, train them, and then I still, to this day, think that I'm a bad manager. That's a whole nother thing. But it helps me to grow a company, understanding those things.
Yeah. I think one of my personal superpowers is not necessarily being a great leader as much as I'm a really good recruiter. I think I'm good at surrounding myself with really good, high quality, high caliber people and seeing potential in other people that they don't see in themselves and inspiring them to take action on that potential in order for them to be better versions of themselves.
Dude, I love that.
It's so strange. And it's like I'm on my personal growth leadership journey, and there's a lot of ways in which I can improve to be a leader. But when I find good people, they generally stick, and they see the self-belief in themselves through the belief and faith that I have in them that fire them up in order to go chase after bigger things for themselves. And that creates some type of loyalty between me and them, honestly.
Of course it does.
It's really, really interesting. And then our relationship just goes next level. I don't know. I think me exercising a lot of trust in others also, like from a very early stage, also allows us to have a great relationship because we have that basis of trust in one another.
I love that, man. I love that. So you said your company right now, you mentioned the partners. Are there a couple people that are partners in the entity?
Yeah, so Kenny and I are partners, and then we have like a profit share split with the guy who is the director of marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And honestly, I don't foresee like our wholesale company being something that's sellable. But honestly, I see this more so as a vehicle to make really big impact, as well as for us to train and grow in our business skills, as well as leading others to living better lives.
I love that.
More impactful lives. So it has never been so much about the money for this particular company. It's like it's basically my first company. Yeah, outside of me building this portfolio that I'm a sole proprietor in or whatever. So this company is definitely a vehicle to accelerate my growth in leadership potential. And whatever that funnels into in the future, I have no clue. But I definitely know that I'm learning a whole lot when it comes to core values, alignment, trust, and building the startup, honestly.
What do you love and hate about Wholesale?
I hate the turnover when it comes to the sales position because it's something that not everyone can feel super passionate about. And that lack of stability makes it hard for you to continuously pour into one person.
That's tough.
Yeah. But what I love about it is the people who self-elevate themselves to the owner position or executive leadership of a wholesale company, they seem to be a lot more growth-oriented and good at communicating, whether it's with themselves or with others. They generally look at their life holistically rather than just this is a vehicle to make money. Maybe this is not true about everybody, and maybe this is just like within the collective genius environment. But the people who do real estate, I feel like, are some of the most happy people, even if they are working 60, 80-hour weeks. It's just like, I just love the grind. I just love to grow. And I just love spending money on coaching.
We do that. There's no question there.
I don't know how many other industries love to spend money on coaching and look forward to getting what they paid for.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting, right? But you look at the core of what we do and breaking this down just on the wholesale side alone, right? There's a lot of potential to make a lot of money, right? And you can do it, I don't want to say easily because it's not easy. It is simple. It's not easy.
Yes.
I may have messed that phrase up, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But since there is so much potential, I think that logically makes it easier for us to be like, well, yeah, it's absolutely worth putting this money into this mastermind, into this education, and into this training for my team because it's going to elevate them to the next level. And the risk of not doing it and not being the best in our industry, especially, take it to the next level, right? Talk about the market that we're in today, the economy that we're in today. Like, you can't afford to not be the freaking best, right? You're not going to be around if you're not the best.
It's like restaurants.
Dude.
You ever seen these guys just get wiped out? Like, my in-laws live in California,
common,
and there's just so many restaurants. There's so many people trying to innovate in that space, but then they get wiped out 365 days later or 2 years later. It's just like, dang. It's like if you're not good or if you're not great or you're not like top 5%, get wiped out, blown off.
Yep.
So that's really inspiring, honestly. It doesn't make me feel like we can't be that.
Because
there will be people who let down their guard. There will be people who get really comfortable and then somebody else eats their lunch. I'm not trying to be that guy.
You want to win. Nobody really wants to lose, right? But I think there's a large delineation between the guy that says I don't want to lose and the guy that will do whatever it fucking takes to win, right? Yeah. And putting the money and the time and the effort into not just yourself, but the people around you and trying to grow everyone around you and grow a team. And like, it's that willingness and grit to be like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. So this is one question that I was like thinking about just recently. Like, under what circumstance would you shut down your wholesale company? Because you got to add. So I think that there's a lot of optimists in our space, and we always want to look at how this is going to work out versus how this is not going to work out. So there's this concept called negative manifestation, which is
it's a thing. It's real. No, it's very real.
You got to look at the downside so you can figure out if this is actually the right direction to go.
Yep.
Or is this the biggest opportunity? So for you, like, under what circumstance would you shut down your wholesale operation?
It's a great question, man. And last year, I was telling you a little bit about before we started, like, I had a terrible year, man. It's like the wheels fell off almost everything. Really, it was end of 22, beginning of 23. We bought this building. I had a whole bunch of stuff going on all at the same time and a whole bunch of stuff going wrong at the same time. So it was probably around March or April of last year. And it's a strange thing for me, right? Because Collective Genius, the mastermind that we're both in, for anybody listening that isn't aware, like, I started to hear people end of 22, actually probably middle of 22, starting to have like issues, right? Flips were sitting longer. It was harder to acquire on the wholesale side. Dispo was harder and everything. I wasn't seeing any of that, right? We were going through rapid freaking growth. Like, even other guys in our local market, they were 5 times bigger than me, were having trouble. I wasn't having trouble. I was growing.
Really?
And then everything with the office, like I told you, we were pushed back 6 or 7 months longer than we were supposed to be. My sales team was now remote. We had always been an in-person sales team. So now my whole team is remote while I'm literally living here trying to get this project done to get everybody back to work, so to speak. I had other projects that I was just bleeding money on. Everything went wrong at the same time, right? So it was probably around middle of March, beginning of April of last year that I laid off everyone.
Yeah.
For about 2 weeks. It didn't last very long, right? It's like I was just kind of I wasn't in a good mental space, you know what I mean? And I got over that really, really quickly, you know, and a big piece of that is a couple of the guys from my team really like kind of came back to me. And leading up to this point, like my whole sales team, my structure was always kind of like base plus commission for almost everybody in a sales role. And when I laid everyone off, I had a couple guys come back to me and they're like, "Hey, look, you know, can we still work? Like we still love the vision. We still want to go where you've been driving us for all these years and everything. Like forget the base pay. If cash is shitty right now, cash flow, don't worry about it. Forget the base. Let's just work on commission. Let's just keep rolling." And that in itself, I think that reignited a fire in me to a degree, because talk about building culture and building a team and, you know, having something that's larger than myself, right? Because that's one of the hardest decisions that I ever made, you know, like writing out that email that night that I'm shutting everything down that I had built for the last 5 years, right? Like I had poured my heart and soul into this thing. It was my baby, right? So it wasn't an easy decision, but yeah, I was back in 2 weeks and kind of started going up and growing and scaling back from there. But it hasn't been sunshine and rainbows, dude. Like it's now it's like, now we're facing the headwinds. We lost that momentum, which is a very real thing in, I believe, almost any business, any industry, right? I had fantastic momentum for a really long time. That momentum's gone, and it's like you're starting from zero again. Even though over the years I had recruited great people, I had built out great systems, great process. I was great at recruiting, right? It's like still you're starting from scratch, you know? So to that question, like what would make me shut everything down?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that could stop me. Like, I don't know, man. I don't mean to sound like, I don't know, unrealistic or, what's the word? Like, I don't know, arrogant in any way, because I have been kicked in the face a lot in the last 18 months, right? But I'm still here and I'm still doing it. And the market's going to do what the market's going to do, right? Who knows what's going to happen with rates later this year? Who knows what's going to happen with elections? Who knows what's going to happen with the real estate market, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that I'm not going to tweak what I'm doing based on what I see coming down the pike, but I'm not going to stop, you know? It's like maybe we dial back our marketing. Maybe we don't go as aggressive in recruiting new people into business development and things of that nature. But dude, I love this industry. Like I love what we do. I love so much about it. There's a lot that I hate as well, right? But yeah, man, this is by and large, it's my baby.
Yeah.
It's my baby. Now let me spin that on you. How about you?
Why would I shut down my wholesaling business or this operation? Well, I lean on a lot of discernment from my spiritual life and my relationship with God. And if there was like a calling for me to be somewhere else, whether it's like, hey, got to go into a bigger opportunity that serves more people, and this is just not something in which I can delegate and somebody else could just take over for me, and maybe that's a sign. Or I could definitely see myself building like 9-figure commercial real estate empire, and that will just be a different vertical elevation of what we're doing. It's just like, well, making $2 to $5 million a year through this thing doesn't sound as appetizing as chasing after big commercial deals that appreciate, or you go like, it's just a whole nother operation, or a whole nother, it's just a whole nother skill set. And it's just like, if I found my niche over there and that was a bigger opportunity for me, or like my skill set is better utilized over there, you know, you got to pick a focus, you know,
for sure.
I don't know if that's truly the direction that I'm heading in, but it could be.
So it's somewhat of a conundrum though, right? Like, how do you know that your calling is in that until you're in it and until you're doing it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think about the relationships that I'm building, because one of my big things is definitely building relationships everywhere, not just in the real estate space, but also in the different business verticals or just people locally, like inside of Delaware, like the DuPonts are well known, or lawyers. That's like the big job for Wilmington. If I'm able to build private equity through the relationships over there, and it's just like my skill set lends to me generating a lot of private investor capital, and I had the right people in place in order to make wise investments that is bigger than what we can make through wholesale, then maybe that's the opportunity. Who knows? But honestly, I'm taking it one step at a time, and I truly believe that relationships are the thing that compounds greater than anything else in life.
Totally agree.
So just depending on how the relationship building game, like it surprises you. Like one relationship completely change your entire trajectory. So I don't know necessarily what my future holds, but I'm not ruling anything out and saying like, oh, I'm going to keep this thing open for as long as I possibly can.
Well, and so that's kind of one of the ways that I think about it anyway, is a wholesale business. You made the point earlier that it's probably not sellable. I only know like 2 people that ever actually sold a wholesale operation. It was basically a franchise anyway, right? So yes, it's not a very sellable business. In a lot of ways, it's kind of just, it's a cash register, right? It's a way to create opportunity. It's a way to, for me, it's been a way to craft myself, understand how to build processes, build people, build myself, and create a lot of money in the process, right? Like I've made a lot of money wholesaling houses, man. And I can't undermine that, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of the skills that you learn as an owner of a wholesale operation, it translates into a lot of other things. Another piece that I'll say is I always had this idea in the back of my mind, like if ever there was that, kind of doomsday thing, I have to lay everyone off or something, God forbid. I always had in the back of my mind that with the things that I had, not even the things that I had built out, but the things that I had learned over the years, I just had this idea that I could still be able to do, like if I had no one left and it was just me, I could easily flip a couple houses a year on my own. I could easily wholesale 12 houses a year on my own, like really, really, really simply, without, spending the $40,000 to $60,000 a month in marketing and team and overhead and all this stuff. I was like, I can do that simply. And not for nothing, last year was a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Because even for 2 to 3 months, when I cut our ad spend from $40,000 down to like 2, wow. Man, we still had revenue coming in. We still had deals coming in. So that's kind of my thing. Like, you're right. Who knows what the world has in store for you? Who knows what it has in store for me? There's going to be opportunities that arise down the road, and there's probably going to be things that are a much more meaningful and impactful purpose than what we do in a wholesale operation, right? But I think there's always opportunity to be able to create and generate deals, and as you do more over the years, it's like it just becomes that much easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also don't rule out the possibility and opportunity of working for somebody else's vision or being part of it and contributing towards it, elevating it to another level if my skill set is valuable. I don't count anything out as an opportunity that is possible and feasible, but it takes a lot of prayer to find that discernment and talking with, more wise counsel and figuring out, where do I belong? Where is my purpose? Because I think I'll always be searching for that. I have friends that I met through the Maui Mastermind whom, they came to that thing and they were like mid-40s and they had already been successful after being in business and real estate business for 15 plus years, and they're trying to find the next thing. And they were measuring themselves forwards instead of backwards. So going back to the gap in the gain theory, where it's just like, they were already successful. They just needed to find that satisfaction in what they've already accomplished, and anything above that is gravy. But they needed to find that daily optimized experience as well, and that was something that they were lacking. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my life. Those two things is measuring yourselves backward, and then finding that daily optimized experience. And that's why I'm just like, if I die tomorrow, I'm perfectly content in terms of where God has led me up to that point.
That's deep, man. That's really deep. That's there's a lot to unpack there, you know.
Maybe another episode, man.
Maybe another episode, but yeah, I think I'm really excited for everything in the future for you. You're really young. You got so much time and experience ahead of you and everything, and you've already, for what it's worth, you've already accomplished a lot at a really young age, you know. And there's so much more coming for you, dude. I'm excited for you.
Thanks, bro.
Where can people find you?
People can find me at on Instagram at the Jesse Nguyen, or they can find us at the Not a Genius podcast. We've done about 30 something episodes, hour-long podcasts on there, really high production value. They can also find us at DelawareHomebuyers.com if people so care about that, if they wanted to do business with us or bring us private money or bring us deals. I'm also on Facebook, Jesse Nguyen, and we run a monthly meetup on the second Thursday of every month at the CSC station in Wilmington, 112 South French Street, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., second Thursday of every single month, where you can learn about real estate and be with other investors on all different levels. And it's just a good time. And it's free admission, free food.
Beautiful, man. I love that. I love that. How long have you been running that?
18 months straight.
That's fantastic.
Nonstop.
That's fantastic. I have not been vocal about it at all, but tomorrow it's been like 5 years since I've held events and everything. We used to do them consistently, fell off. We're starting back. Tomorrow is the first one here in the office. It's the first event we're having in the office, and I've posted it pretty much nowhere. Like, somebody commented on my Facebook this morning. They're like, where did you post this? I'm like, honestly, I don't know, but I got to do better. So this is going to release after that anyway. So, you know, not worth bringing it up. But Jesse,
you got to do that miscellaneous Facebook post right after this podcast, man.
Yeah, I know. I gotta do better. But Jesse, thank you so much for coming out. This has been awesome. We'll have to do it again, brother.
Appreciate it, bro.